Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to United 96 Podcast on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network. You're hearing me and not Ted, and not the both of us, because we had a little bit of a snafu with the recording. So you're not going to get to hear the riveting conversation around F1, our weekends, any other things that sort of we talk about at the beginning of the show, because it's lost to all eternity. I don't even think it's on Twitch. It will only be heard by the two of us and producer Brian and no one else ever again. Assume it was the best thing you've never heard. Assume it's like the missing tapes that like unlock the Ark of the Covenant or something. Anyway, you're going to get most of the discussion tonight about the Atlanta game. And that's pretty much it. We talk about that. We talk about where the season's going, which is we talk about all the time. So enjoy the rest of the show and be sad you didn't hear the first 10 minutes, which will have changed the course of human history for certain. Vamos. Let's talk about what happened in Atlanta.
Yeah, and to sort of add to that, I see there's a lot of the same responses. I feel like we're going to get this after every loss. This was, in my opinion, the Philly game. Both Philly games were perfect opportunities to rail against everything about this team. When the team actually does show up, and they do show some signs that the signings they've made might be starting to bear fruit, that the players that we're looking at as potential players that we want back next year, that we need back next year, because we can't just completely, forgo the whole lineup.
Says you making lots of transfers going on, and 25 transfers.
It's certainly on the defensive side of the ball, and we'll certainly get into that. But it's good to see some of the fight we saw, especially on the road, especially after that Philly game. It's a shame it ends in a bad result, 3-2 loss. Yeah, it is tough in the moment, because when you're in that game, you do want you want to see some wins. Like, you want, if nothing matters, you would want to at least want to see some wins. The games still matter in that sense. And, I think even coming down the stretch in 2020, when it was pretty clear the season was over, the extended playoffs, I think, helped keep things alive for very longer. But you talk about that win they had against Atlanta, those were particular moments when, there was at least a little bit of happiness. And this season, just very much feels like that fight to really finish the game just really isn't there. And this team had, I feel like, in those bad seasons, had good moments and good players kind of sprinkled out the field. It just kind of wasn't enough. This very much feels like there is one area of the field where there needs to be a complete tear down and retool. And that's the defensive side of the ball. And that's what it felt like, honestly.
I do like that we're out of the playoffs earlier this season. I feel like that's the dumbest part of the season, when it's over, but no one can admit it's over, and they have to make lineup decisions like it's not over. So now that's done, right? Now we can dispatch with the fantasy and actually send out lineups that are indicative of a team that is building for next year. And I think that's good. I think the best thing to do is make the playoffs. The second best thing to do is to miss it so badly that you can get a whole half of a season or a third of a season to really shake out what you want to do next year. And I think, we're going to see some of that. I think we could talk about the new roster additions and where they're fitting in. Ravel Morrison has played, I think, in 3 different spots so far this year. This is his furthest advance, probably.
And he obviously gets the goal. I'm starting to see more. I'm starting to see the progression I would expect, I guess, from a new signing that isn't an immediate fit. It's not like Taxi when he came in and was just like immediately clicked, got it. Everything was going through him. He had, sometimes that happens with players. Sometimes, most of the time you don't get that. So you hope that there is at least some form of progression. And I'm seeing that from Ravel Morrison, seeing that from Victor Paulson, seeing that from Chris Durkin, especially. I think the midfield I'm feeling at least a little bit tiny bit better about. And one player that won't be here, which we'll get into that in a little bit. So
let's talk lineup here just to start the game off. Ochoa starts for his second time, first time on the East Coast. Remember, he was rotated last match. Rafael Romo is in the concussion protocol. He hurt himself in training, so I think likely you're not going to see him again. I think that's that. Goodbye. Andy Nahar, Birnbaum, Alfaro, Guidry in the back line, Durkin, Paulson, Jafal, Morrison, Rodriguez, and Funtas up front. I think that's a forward-looking lineup. I would say Jackson Hopkins not being there makes it slightly less future forward. This is a little bit more like we got to win now. But I would also say that Jackson Hopkins has not impressed very much since he became the full-time starter. So probably makes sense as well. Also, we've got a game on Wednesday and then a game on Sunday. So they're probably going to sprinkle it around. Did you like that lineup?
Yes, mostly. The only thing, obviously, I did not like about this lineup was one of the players that is starting in the center back position, and that was obviously Tony Alfaro. I think it is high time that this team move on from Tony Alfaro. And honestly, it was justified by the performance of the defender who didn't even sub in for him, but came into the game and immediately showed the physical prowess and everything that makes him a player that if he can just figure out that mental side of the game, I think he could be a solid solid center back option for this team, and that's Donovan Pines,
who had a higher rating than him in 10 minutes on the field.
Yeah. Tony Alfaro was, I guess, fine through several minutes, and then it's always moments where you're just like, where is he on that mark? Why is the entire defense leaving Joseph Martinez as sort of I guess blunted in his powers as he normally is? Like, normally he is one of the best strikers in the league. Injuries have hurt him. He is not the same person that he was, but he is still a threat. It's the same thing of, like, you know, Wondolowski in his late 30s. You're still going to mark him because he's still a threat. He can still get his way around. And really, it really just kind of these past few games, both the game against Philly and both the game against Atlanta particularly, have just exposed the biggest problem right now is this team is in the center back position. They have to. That should be priority number one, to figure out what you're going to do. And it's not going to be easy. I think pretty sure Alfaro's on a 1-year contract. If I had time, I was going to put together a list of, because DC's contract situation I thought was better than it actually is. But you still got Steve Birnbaum on a $700,000 contract, roughly, heading into next season. I mean, that's like that. You pay a guy that much, you're expecting like Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman type productivity from him. And we're not getting it. So I don't know what the solution is there. I think I think you have two hope. The best option here would be you leave him exposed and St. Louis takes him in the expansion draft. The next option is you find a trade for him. But with considering how he's played, how he's very clearly regressed, I don't know what kind of like trade out. You're probably going to have to take a chunk of that salary. And if this was a team that had hired a coach with a 3-year plan, that would probably be acceptable. But you have 1 year guaranteed, maybe, with Wayne Rooney. 1 season. I mean, we'll see. But that's the biggest concern I have right now from this team is not only does Alfaro look bad, it's fine. Alfaro, goodbye. Let's bring someone else in next year. Birnbaum's the trickier story because he's got a guaranteed contract through next season. So, yeah.
You do have a problem there. Birnbaum, it's funny with him. You will find him. I think he's going to be league leader in a few stats, right? Like, I think he's number 1 in like headers, some duels won. Like, he's still very good in some aspects, but if you look at the overall performance in the year, it's not a caliber to his salary, and that's not his fault. That's what he missed a year due to a number of ankle injuries, and with him and Hamid, that's $1.4 million on salary that the team is not getting the value that they would expect. And in Bill's case, almost no value out of. So that's a challenge as this team looks to be competitive. They've got dead money on the books. And there's only, and you know who you can blame for that? In a way, you can blame the front office about that. Long-term contracts for players ultimately are a decision that is made by the front office. Like, we're going to give up some of their late prime if we let them go, but we'll also not be on the hook when they turn to a pumpkin. But in both of those cases, it seems like that's not the case. And Birnbaum, I believe he has value on the team. Certainly not at a $700,000 level, but as a and he's still beyond the Fred Birnbaum stage. I still think he can be next to another good center back. I think he's fine. I think he's okay. But the problem is we don't have that right now. Brendan Heinzike, injured again, broken foot, coming off of a year where he had a broken hip. Neither of those are like soft tissue injuries, but that's not good. You don't necessarily you assume he comes back at normal strength after a broken foot, but
I mean, it's the second it's the second year with this team, and the second time he will not play any games past July, June. I forget when he got injured, but
he got signed to a new contract, and it wasn't a year. So the team is somewhat stuck in these positions. Brendan Heinzike probably less likely to get a trade or picked up in the expansion draft than Birnbaum, but Birnbaum's salary is going to be such a problem for St. Louis. I don't imagine. I mean, but it's way too early to know what the list looks like, whatever. But
I do think with St. Louis, they could look at it as we have a boatload of allocation money,
buy it down,
to buy down his contract and still have room for other moves. It depends on if they are looking to trade within the league, use some of that allocation money like we've seen Charlotte do, to sort of try to throw their weight around and try to bring in some players to build out that roster. Then I could see them looking at Birnbaum as here's a guy we can bring in. We hope maybe the fresh start, fresh idea, maybe that brings him in and he starts playing better and plays up to that salary. I think Birnbaum's biggest problem is when he is supposed to be the de facto leader out there on the back line. Yes, Brendan Heinzike, certainly has a lot of European experience. I think he's a little younger than Steve Birnbaum, but he's supposed to be that veteran leader. He's the captain of the team. I don't know if he I look at what Victor Paulson did after the 6-0 loss and going over to fans. I know that's I'm not saying he has to go do those things, but we have seen big gaps when Birnbaum has been the guy, when he doesn't have another guy who kind of takes over that organizational role. Bobby Boswell, Fred Brilliant, he struggles because he is not that type of defender. He's a very good, and even so, when he had the physical ability, that's clearly gone now. His one good attribute is almost completely been eroded at this point. So, absolutely 100%, FO deserves blame for this. And I think these types of contracts they have with guys like Steve Birnbaum, like Bill Hamid, has caused them to reevaluate their loyalty, because they were actually a team that was incredibly loyal to players right to the end.
Yep. Oh God, so many times.
Yeah, so many times. It was very clear, they were on the downswing. They got a new contract and they paid them.
Kristian Gomez may be the exception to that. Almost every other player was able to play until the wheels literally fell off.
Yeah, and it's burned them. It's burned them several times. It's burning them right now. So I think this has caused them to sort of reevaluate. It's certainly, we've seen the effects of I think of Eric Williamson and Cullen Martin and Michael Seaton have had on how do we view these young players, and when do we sell them or when do we move them? So it's tough. It's tough. We'll see what happens. I could envision a scenario where maybe he's still on this team. I could envision a scenario where Romo's still on this team. They can only buy out one contract, and maybe they look at Romo and say, well, he'll be a backup, and we'll kind of figure out from there. We'll see. Very interesting offseason coming up for DC.
Yeah, who's back, certainly more interesting. Certainly more interesting the rest of the season.
Yes,
that's a for certain. We're not going to do the typical go through the game. You all saw it or you didn't see it.
I mean, we can talk a little bit about. I guess the only moment of contention was sort of the referee,
our best player being kicked to death,
essentially kicked to death. Bizarre refereeing decision. I think there was another scenario where there was a pretty clear pass back from the Atlanta defender to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper picks it up. I think the assistant flagged it and said, hey, that's a pretty clear pass back. And the referee was like, nope, not interested.
And then Wayne says, are you sure? And he said, well, I have to be 100% sure. And he was like, yeah, that was 100%. Yeah, that was what that was.
That was, I mean, I don't think that would have changed the game or anything, but it's a real bizarre. There's been a lot of talk about that rule and what or that law and what it represents and, what it's designed to do. And it's very clear that some referees just have no interest in in trying to enforce it. So weird situation. Then obviously there's a play where it was a pretty clear foul on Taxi. He then runs right into I'm not sure who the Atlanta player was, right into the leg. Yeah, that was not good. He's in concussion protocol, so he is probably out for 2 weeks, which is really, really a shame because theoretically we should have Christian Benteke here, and I think that is a partnership where you want as many games as you can to have Taxi link up with Christian Benteke. So,
yeah, Ochoa played pretty well. I think we can draw that from this game. You would say in a match where you put 3 past him, I would say none of them were his fault. So there's that. I think he made probably 3 goal saving. Well, obviously every save you make is a goal saving save, but saves that a typical goalkeeper are not going to make. That is my take. So I think that that would be great if we could sign him. Steve Goff had today that he's entered into discussions around a new contract. I'll be surprised if it actually happens because I think that he's got a lot of leverage right now. I mean, theoretically, he's got theoretical leverage. We don't know how many of these like rumors about his interest across the pond or in Mexico are real. Granted that he now has 2 games of tape in the last 24 months, or not 24 months, 14 months. No, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm about 50-50 on it. I try not to read into how a player looks, how they're acting, I guess, on the field, because sometimes
unless your name is Lucho Acosta.
Yeah, unless your name's Lucho Acosta. I don't really I try to everybody's like, oh wow, he clearly doesn't want to be here. And I think sometimes we're projecting our thoughts, projecting our, how we feel about the team onto what's going on. I mean, if he's spending most of his time in training, he's spending most of his time around the team, that might be going fantastic for him. And he's like, I understand things are tough right now. I'm also very clearly under the understanding that very clear on the understanding that this is hopefully going to get better. And, this team clearly doesn't bring in Wayne Rooney if they don't put a lot of resources into it. And I'm seeing those resources. Also, I mean, goalkeeper's it's not a position. It is a unique position in that there is literally, if you are a goalkeeper, there is one position you can play. You're not a holding midfielder that can sometimes play a winger and then you get, go off to a team and maybe you'll play one position, maybe you'll play the other. It just might depend on when there's an opening for you. You can get subbed in. So, if you are the goalkeeper, you are expecting to play the whole game. And if you are not starting, so I could see that weighing on him. Yes, he might go to Barcelona and maybe I think he does not go to Europe unless he has an agreement in place where there's a loan somewhere where he can play. And I think that'll be what I would do if I was a goalkeeper going to one of these bigger clubs. Is I'd be like, look, I'm not 18, 19. I'm not Gaga Slovenia. I can't pronounce that right. I'm not 17, 18 years old where I have a couple years where maybe being at a top level training is going to do me good. I'm 21. I need to be getting minutes. I need to be getting game
21
time.
is like an infant as a goalkeeper.
Yes,
he's got potentially 18 more years at the top level.
Very true, very true. But I will say that I think he is the type of guy also who wants to play, and I don't think he's happy with just going to train. Also, you got to think too. He's also thinking about he's declared for the Mexican national team right now. The other Ochoa, who plays at Club America, has probably a lockdown on that number 1 spot. But this is also probably his last year. So he's probably thinking, I've already lost a whole year where I have not been playing. I've not been able to even glimpse the lineup. If I'm even going to get close, I need to be playing. I need to be playing games. If I want to start building myself up for 2026 to potentially be on that World Cup roster, I think DC stands a pretty good chance of signing him. I do think they will need to probably pay him more than what they think they're going to need to pay him to get him to sign. So I think I think the money is probably going to decide this more than anything about what's going on with the team.
Oh, for sure. It is money. It is money. Money to him is respect. I think that is clear.
Yeah.
I advise everyone to read the Jeff Carlisle piece on ESPN to get a real understanding of what went wrong at RSL. To the point, I think, he's young. 22 is young. You said 22, right? He's young.
21. I think he's 21.
That's like a baby. That is
say.
like an infant of a person. And he got mad at his team and became a jerk. And his teammates wanted to code red him in the locker room and would go to the front office and be like, get this joker out of here. We do not want him here. He's not training hard. He's not taking it seriously. And then Pablo Mastroeni sends him to the USL side and says, you can get back. All you got to do is practice for like 5 weeks. Practice every time. Go to practice. And then you can come back. And he couldn't do that. Could not be bothered to do that. So there's a reason we got him for $75,000. It's because he made himself a serious problem at that club because he was not happy with the contract. It was disrespectful. So it'd be very interesting to see what this contract looks like. Does he want all of Bill Hamid's $700,000? Probably. Does he deserve it based on his track record? I don't know. Maybe you got to look at like how much is this guy bought in? If you're going to, Bill Hamid got that contract because he was a club legend and he had displayed over years that this team was less without him than they were with him. So it was clearly like, pay him what it takes to stay. That's what you got to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think that for him, we don't know these players at all. I've not even done any press with him before, so I really don't know him whatsoever. I'm not getting any calls on him. But I think the ego would enjoy the Barcelona move, regardless of necessarily. I think he thinks if he can get in that training session with Xavi, he can win the number one shirt no matter what. Like that, I think he's got that. I mean, you need that level of somewhat delirious confidence. But I also think that his ego of wanting to be in the biggest stage and that he deserves to be in the biggest stage might pull him away from DC United unless they drop a bag on him. So we'll see. I think that's really, because without him, it's just Romo and Kempen. And then maybe you sign one of the Zamudio from Loudon. And that, despite what some people in Discord would tell you, is not the position you want to find yourself going into 2023. I don't care. That is insufficient. That is a David Osted-esque sort of like goalkeeping situation. Cannot do it. So anyway,
I think based on what we've seen in a couple, again, limited appearances, I do not see how you do not want David Ochoa here, because that is a massive, massive hole that you have to fill. And right now I'm like, okay, well then who else are you going to take? Are you going to burn another international slot on a goalkeeper that then could go possibly elsewhere in the field? I think DC, you can maybe negotiate a little bit, but I think you pay pretty close knowing that he probably still has suitors. Now, again, I question whether those suitors are still available. If you are a team like Barcelona, like Real Madrid looking at, or Manchester United or wherever, those top European teams that were looking at him, and you see a goalkeeper that basically burned a whole year due to conflicts with management, conflicts with coach, that's a massive, massive red flag for any of those teams, because they will sign you with the idea that you are a goalkeeper maybe who might be good, 2-3 years down the line. If you have a guy who's impatient, a guy who, doesn't, that would be something that you would have to address and assess. So honestly, I do not think, personally, I do not think that those suitors might still be around. I think those suitors might have evaporated as soon as he started not seeing the field and really not training either. Like he was such. So I think maybe DC's position might be a little bit stronger than we think. But again, he's also a free agent. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some other lower European sides that might be willing to take more of a flyer.
Speaking of other suitors evaporating and European suitors, we have a transfer news to talk about. Former 442 best players under 21, top 100 players in the United States or in the world. Moses Nyeman has been transferred to the Belgian second division side SK Beveren. I'm sure we have Belgian listeners. I know that we had some people who spoke Flemish when Hernan was coming here. So who knows if you're still listening? If you are, tell us. I'm sure we're saying it wrong. But let's talk about it. So $350,000 neighborhood of a transfer fee, sell-on fee of 25%. Should Beveren move him along in the next, I guess, ever? What was your snap reaction to this, and where are you at now? Is it the same place? Because we know this has been coming for about a week.
So, like, I think when we all see these signings, we're about to talk about another signing that's coming in the door for DC, a big one too, a big get for DC United. I think when these guys get signed, we all have this vision of we want moments. Like we got that with Kevin. We had several moments where we saw like the talent sort of being realized, and we got memories that we can attach those players to. And I think this one hurts because he not only was Moses Nyeman like highly touted amongst US soccer circles, he got recognition from like outside international media, which at the time was like, something that hardly ever happens. He was identified as a top 100 wonder kid in the world. Like he was a guy that people were saying was going to be incredible. And we never really saw that for DC.
You know what my two moments for him on the field are?
Two red cards.
That's what I remember.
And I think clearly I'm happy with the fact, like the alternative here would be he sits on the bench again. This team is very clearly signed two guys that play his role. Two guys that are definitely not going to sit on the bench. If they are healthy and fit, they will play, and that's Victor Paulson, and that is
Chris Durkin.
Chris Durkin, and Ravel Morrison as well.
Russell Canals?
I think Russell Canals too. We'll see.
I'm not sure. I think I saw him on the bench one time.
So,
I don't know.
So because of his position, I think he maybe he's not going to get the looks that I think he's going to get. So I think it's it is a good thing with all that the team said, you know what, let's go ahead. Let's get him to a place where he has a chance to maybe break through. It's not the greatest. It's not maybe all that we thought was going to happen. We thought maybe he would develop more at this point. But we at least get something for him. And then, we can hopefully then get that, that sell-on fee should he actually prove the talent that he has. I think this also probably, I think they are starting to listen more to some of their younger players. I think if 4 or 5 years ago, if a younger player comes in, like a Michael Seaton comes in and says, I want to get out of here. I want to either play me or find me somewhere else to go.
over historically.
Over historically. I think they're now starting to listen a little bit and say, you know what? Yeah, let's, if it's really not working out here, let's find a move here. Let's figure out a place where they can go, where maybe they can develop. And then it doesn't preclude them from coming back.
Clearly.
We saw it with we saw it with Chris Durkin, and he has come back as a better player, I would say. And so best case scenario, he takes off at the second division side. Maybe they get promoted to the Belgian first division. Maybe he moves on to another Belgian side that's scouting him. And maybe he then gets sold on for even more down the road. Like maybe that's his trajectory. The 25% I kind of posted as kind of an oof. I was hoping for something in the realm of 30-35%. 25% seemed a bit low for me, but I think maybe it's more of we think like once he shows how good he is, that he will then be worth well more than that, and well more than we would have gotten on an initial transfer anyway. We'll see. He's still young. I think it's been disappointing that he hasn't developed much, but yeah, John, I'm sorry, I talked a lot, so I'll let you jump in
I think it's to me, it feels like a failure of player development, and that is a thing that I can say, aside from Kevin Paredes, is a story with young players. I think it's about getting this guy minutes somewhere, not letting him sit on the bench for 2 seasons. He played 1 game at Loudoun this year. He has been injured some of these matches, but I think Jason Anderson had the stat up. There were 29 games in which he was not in the injury report and was not on the field, or even sometimes in the 18. So is he training horribly? Maybe. I don't know. If he is, then maybe he needed a loan move to sort his butt out. Maybe he needed to go somewhere else and earn it somewhere. Maybe his head got too big from being in a 4-4-2 top 100 player in the world. I don't know, but I do think that a player that previously had higher value, and you don't parlay that into either a player that you use or a player that you sell for that or more money, is a failure in development. One way or the other. The other option is the player just disappointed. That is no one's fault except for, I guess, Moses, if anybody. I don't know. We can't know. It's frustrating. I think Roach tweeted something saying like, we're almost there. We got 3 out of the 4, and it was something like, sign or like find young kids in the academy, give them options to develop at Loudoun, sign them to contracts, and then the last one that we haven't done for enough of these players is have them be useful contributors to the starting 11 and giving them lots of minutes and letting them develop at DC United. So we haven't figured that part out yet. I think that's true. Kevin Paredes is the rare exception, the rare success story. Griffin Yao sold for $100,000. Really,
the difference is I think the biggest thing is that I don't know if it's a lack of patience or because I mean let's not deny that Nyeman did have opportunities. He was given opportunities to be out there on the field and to try to get minutes and to sort of get a grasp on that spot. I would argue some of the same opportunities that Kevin Paredes got. And Kevin Paredes took advantage of that and played well, did well to show that, hey, I deserve a starting spot here and I deserve to unseat a guy like Joseph Mora, who we all thought coming in was probably going to occupy that left back spot. And, Kevin Paredes came in and took it from him. I think we were all waiting for Moses Nyeman to do the same with Russell Canals. Like he was supposed to be the guy that would sort of grab that spot and say, no, this is my spot. And I would argue he never really did that. So I think the problem is that Philly is willing to throw those guys out there, give them multiple chances. And I'm not necessarily in the DC did the right thing. I'm just saying, I think our biggest problem right now is we're still very low tolerance for errors. And Moses Nyeman came in and made some bad errors. Like he got sent off in 2 games. And as a Ryan DC, Paredes only has to unseat 1 player. Nyeman only had to jump over 5 players. I would disagree with that to start the season. And in 2021, he had maybe 2 guys in there, Junior Moreno and Russell Canals, that he had to really jump over. And the rest of that was just kind of like what Drew Skundrich. Are we saying like Drew Skundrich is a player you necessarily have to jump over? It's much, much different now. And I think that is a product of the fact that Moses Nyeman never really made that next step.
I will fight the idea that he had a long run in the squad. I'm looking at sort of his game logs from 2021.
I'm not even saying he had a long run in the squad. I am saying that he got opportunities and moments. And when you get those opportunities and moments, you need to seize them. You need to go out and you need to make the most of them. And you need to show. And what do we remember about him? 2 moments he got sent off. He got a red card.
Nearly have as many starts as Jackson Hopkins has already total in his career. That might be looking at the times he went 90. He went 95 times in his career and went over 70 maybe 8 or 9 times. So I don't know, man. There's something to that. I think that if the value is there, you're trying to develop the value. You got to maybe like you said, put up with mistakes a little bit more often. 2 red cards suck. They're not good. And both of those games, it turns out one of them we didn't lose. But I don't know. It doesn't matter in the scheme of things because this is Jeremy Garay is the new golden child, and everyone's talking about him potentially. Maybe he'll be the top 100 youth player in 2022, and then we can start this whole circus over again. But he had, unlike Moses Nyeman, he had an extensive run, and is having an extensive run, playing every game for as many minutes as possible at Loudoun, and that's something Moses never really got. Moses and Griffin Yao were, and this was partially a result of COVID, couldn't go back and forth between Loudoun and DC United, and mostly just sat and gathered cobwebs on the DC United bench. So that probably hurt the development too, and that's no one's fault. Anyway, let's get to the new player we signed. The next wonderkin.
The next wonderkin signing is Kristian Fletcher, homegrown signing. He's 17 years old. Played at Bethesda Soccer Club, a huge soccer club around the DMV area. Was a guy who apparently was starting to get looked at by Man United, by the Bundesliga side, and by Bundesliga side. I think it was Bayern. Thought it was Bayern. Was it Borussia Dortmund? It was one of the two. One of the big sides
that
was looking
could beat
at
us
him.
by 30 goals.
Probably. If we're playing like we played against Philly. Sure, absolutely. But yeah, so Kristian Fletcher, I honestly have not watched much of him. Just know he is a good talent and another guy. I've seen maybe a couple of them.
Yes, I believe he scored 2 and maybe 3, but one of them was a bit of a golazo. So I have watched a little bit of Loudon, a little bit more than Ted, but certainly not as much as probably some of our listeners, and certainly not as much as a lot of people. Probably there are many people who have seen him more. I've noticed the mistakes that he makes are mistakes that a young player makes. There's some lazy passing in the build-up. He does not get dispossessed usually. I've not noticed that as a problem. But the good thing about him is that he is very confident in his ability to shoot. And that was always Lucy Rushton said that one of the big things she looks at in signing a player is shots per 90, because they figure if we're not shooting, we're not scoring. I would say that is certainly not translated to on the field performance for 2020 DC United, who neither shoot nor score for the most part. But that is something that is very exciting. And thinking about a player who is not a traditional number 9, but is as a winger, could play as a 10, gets a chance to learn from Wayne Rooney. I think that's great for a young attacking player to get that opportunity. The fact that he's being signed and will be in uniform on Wednesday against New York City is wild. It means that for sure Taxi's not playing. Taxi is definitely out on a concussion. But it also says that Wayne is looking at these young players and saying, I'm here for 12 months, folks, 12 more months. So if you've got any talent that I can utilize in the Loudon or wherever else, I'm taking them. I'm signing them and I'm going to put them forward and see what happens. I'm not going to be patient with that. He obviously did not. Moses is a different story, but attacking players, Jackson Hopkins, also potentially Matai Akambone, who has played 97 minutes for Loudon United. So not a Jeremy Garay situation, but has played with the academy for a couple years, a defender. Rooney is saying, I'm going to fill these spots. There's not going to be any empty spots in this roster. Let's take advantage of the team, of the young players that we're producing.
Yeah, he's also apparently moving on to Matea. Sorry, you just said that. Sorry, I appreciate that. Sorry about that. But yeah, so he's moving on to other attacking talents. That shows his ability to develop younger players. I think again, this still speaks to a positive aspect of the team, that they now have the ability to attract these players in, to sign them. And I think even though I am sad that that Moses Nyeman, we never got to see Moses Nyeman really develop into a first team player, it is still positive from a messaging perspective to these young prospects that, look, if it's not working out, we're not going to,
we won't extend your contract. We won't pick up your options and sit you on the bench for your entire career. We will not Jalen Robinson you.
Yeah, we will not just throw you to the side and say, you got to break through. If it's not working, we're going to find value for you. We're going to send you somewhere, and we're going to give you opportunities to go elsewhere. And that's an opportunity you get to come play for your hometown team. And if you show well, you then get that bigger move. And I think that the carrot is still there for that. If you do well enough, if you come out and play like Kevin Paredes did, and a team comes and says, hey, we'll offer $10 million for you. Yep, we'll sign you. If it's not working, well, then we'll find something else for you that, and you can still get that pathway to Europe. That pathway to Europe is still there. You have opportunities to float between Loudon United and DC, where you can still get professional minutes. We will help you in that development path. And I think that is still a very, very positive thing. And I think it's reflected in the guys that they've been able to bring in. I would say 5 years ago, Kristian Fletcher's off to Dortmund or wherever he was off to. Honestly, he would probably be on the plane already there at this point.
Wayne was a selling point.
Or he would say
Wayne is a selling point because he puts international
Yes.
eyes on DC United that otherwise should not be watching the last place team in MLS. We should not.
Fair enough.
We should not have write-ups in the Sun, which we do. We should not. That should not be a thing, but we do. So that's great. Kristian Benteke, another player that will be available, hopefully, potentially, likely on Wednesday. He went through preseason with Crystal Palace, so fitness shouldn't be a problem. I think Wayne wants 20 minutes out of him. That'd be great. If not that, he'll be available on Sunday against Colorado, his first big home game. That'll probably be a start. Let's hope for the good things. We've got I want to roll through these questions real quick because we have, despite it being another loss and saying the games don't matter, we milk that for 50 minutes.
There's still news. To
RJ Olson says the dominant take on social media seems to be that DC United needs to completely overhaul the defense. Is this your take too? What would you do with the current defense? Who would you keep and who would you let go? We talked a little bit about that, about what can be done with some of these players, most of whom who are under contract and cannot just be let go, and most of whom will not be bought out. I'm trying to think who the buyout gets used on. Does it get used? We've never actually done it, have we? We've never actually utilized the buyout, have we?
I don't think so. Well, we have. I think we did it on who was the goalkeeper 2018 2018 before Hamid came in?
Osted got bought out
right now.
That was for like $5 or whatever. Either way, but yeah. So
that was a buyout.
Okay, so it could be done.
In my mind, the buyout has to be Rafael Romo, if I'm being honest, because Rafael Romo takes up an international slot that is like an extra $250,000 on whatever salary he is making that you have to go account for if you're using up that spot. Birnbaum is let's meet with him and see if he has some value elsewhere. I think he still would have some value elsewhere in the league. And I think even if it's really like we want to go in a different direction, we want to find some new defenders, we got some free agents on the market that we think we can bring in and we can convince to come here. Let's go trade him and we will take half his salary. We will take half his salary as sunk cost if you free up that roster slot and give us some extra room that we can go out and sign somebody. So I think that could be something you could see happen. You could see happen this year with this team, or maybe, you can bait St. Louis to taking him up. Tony Alfaro, I think he's only on a 1-year contract. He's
Sammy
gone.
Guidry.
Sammy Guidry, I think I want to see him stay. He's the one guy.
I don't want to see him ever start.
I think he is a good spot starter right now. I think he has been fine. What about the newly converted, I think either right back or left back from the attack? And I am so blanky. Well, obviously, like we talk about Andy Nahar. Kamari Smith, yes. Kamari Smith, do you want him back?
Yeah, I mean the team loves him. He will remain. I think that's for
the big question. The big question I have is, man, where's that green card? Can we get that green card? Can we free up your international slot there, buddy? Same with Jafal as well. We get that green card and we get that free up roster slot. Let's go. Like keep them on the roster. The fact that they're using up the international slot is a challenge.
Samake?
I think.
No, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think that was. I think they got a little bit too confident in Ryan Martin's description of Samake when they signed him to the actual club deal.
Yeah, I think Sammy, I think, has been better than I think some want to give him credit for. I think he brings something going forward. I've not been completely disappointed in him. Do I think he's perfect, or do I want him starting week in, week out? Probably not. I'd love to see some other options in there. But as a sort of backup option, I don't think he's terrible. And I think with a better defensive core of center backs, I think he will be fine in
Fine's
that role.
keep,
so,
yes.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I think
Chris Goyatsam keep, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you're gonna have to. You're spending a lot of money elsewhere if you're replacing center back. So I feel like as a depth option at least, and then Andy Nahar obviously you keep. And Brendan Heinzike. So Brendan Heinzike, we have injury concern. Brad Smith, injury concern, coming off his second ACL for a player that you spent $800,000 in allocation money on to play for you 2/3 of one season and then potentially nothing else. That's another front office blunder you can hang on someone's neck. Not the injury, but the fact that that's what was paid and that's what we get.
Well, Brendan Heinzike is here through 2023, by the way.
So next year,
with a club option in 2024, I think he survives. I think he stays. I think his contract cannot be that expensive that I think he stays. I think Hayden Sargis.
Oh,
do we keep him?
is he on a DC United deal?
Yeah,
no,
he is.
Nope, absolutely not. He has not shown for. He has not shown at all for Loudoun. Literally.
I mean,
he's had COVID.
Has he been playing?
He's had COVID,
okay.
but when he plays, he is not sharp. He's not the all USL player he was touted to be from Sacramento. So, bleh.
I mean, it can't be. I think it is. He's played 8 matches so far for
enough.
Loudoun. Yeah,
not enough. Gotta go.
17 years old too. He's still young though. He's still 20 years old. 20 years old.
Then
still young.
Put him on Loudoun. Then take him off your roster.
But he can't. I mean, again, he can't be that expensive. I mean, he's probably taking up a roster slot, maybe a supplemental slot. But
anyway,
we'll
so
see.
there are lots of players to bring in there, and only so many that we can move out. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. I think Brad Smith will be injured, will be not renewed. So that's one spot and a lot of money on salary. I think that we're going to try to see what we can do with Steve. I think you can't have that Steve Brendan pairing. I think that's based on the way that Wayne wants to play and where the performance has been. You got to figure something out. Next question. Oh, okay. Well, just overall, is the sale of Moses Nyeman a success or a failure or somewhere in between? Even if it's leaning towards failure, are there positives to take? We definitely went through this. I think somewhere in between, I think is probably, it's a failure of development, but a success in moving a player on for something that maybe was trending towards, not being able to contribute because he wasn't able to contribute. Mark Rickling says, is the remaining of our season really meaningless? Doesn't matter if there's evidence or not. Wayne's system is taking hold with the players we've got now, many of whom will be central to our team next year via tangible results in the remaining games. I think I messed up the text there, but is the rest of our season meaningless because of the fact that we are looking at lots of these players taking in Wayne's system?
I think from the midfield up, maybe one more big time player gets brought in. I think this team went out and said, let's figure out the midfield. Let's figure out the attack mostly. And we can look to maybe get one more big time player. Maybe they look defense for that player too. I mean, I wouldn't shock me if, John Brooks is heading in and doesn't get the time he wants, and then they want to drop him a designated player contract to bring him in. I mean, it would not honestly shock me. I don't think that's the route they go.
At San Jose? But where did he go? Is he still a free agent?
So he's still a free agent. There were rumors he was going to Saudi Arabia, and then I think Union Berlin apparently. I think he was kind of what he was saying was basically he was kind of holding out for deadline day when injuries start to get picked up, and then there's a team that loses a guy that they want as a starting center back, and they're like, crap, we need somebody who has Bundesliga experience we can bring in, and so I think Union Berlin maybe looking to bring him in. I think I saw that in a rumored tweet, but a tweet nonetheless. So he's still a free agent from what I can tell. I don't think there's been anything official that's sort of dropped in. But I think from the midfield up into the attack, I think there are still some gleams of learning the system. And I think that was kind of the goal was, we know we want to sign Benteke. Let's build out the rest of this midfield. We know we're going to have to address every aspect of this field. So where do we want to focus this window? And I think it was a prime focus on the midfield and the attack. And I think we'll see if it's successful. I think if this team goes out and, starts to put together, they've looked better offensively in portions of the past 2 games. I talked about the first 35 minutes in Philly. I think those are positive things that we can get to look forward to as we sort of move forward. And seeing some, Fletcher probably going to get some minutes. Maybe he comes out and puts the ball in the back of the net, and suddenly we have a whole nother discussion.
Maybe he's the player that I'm thinking about, and this will draw me scorn from one particular person on Twitter who the show has blocked all 9,000 of his aliases. But I would love a player on the bench or on the team that can fill at least 40% of Taxi Funtas's skill set should he be unavailable. So a creative midfielder. The thing in my mind, the last time DC United had a backup number 10, for lack of a better word, is Julian Boucher. And that is dating me a little bit, but thinking back, if Lucho Acosta was injured, you had no other player that could really step in and you could play the same way. He was such a unique skill set on the team. I think you should, when you build a team out, do your best to build a roster where if any one player goes out, you can stick to the game plan that you want to stick with and not have to go to plan B right away. That's hard. It's harder to do in practice, in reality than theory. But that is when Taxi went out. Granted, we were still able to put goals on the in, but the style of play changed a little bit. We were not carrying the ball through the middle whatsoever. That was out. We were not going to be doing that anymore. So that I would like to see that if you're looking at changes you can make going forward. Ola remains interesting with a player whose contract is out at the end of the year. So we'll be interested to see he scores goals. He did it again. He's a fox in the box. He will score. He might get to double digits by the end of the year. It's possible. So
yeah, it's very possible.
It's not insane if they figure out a way to keep him on a reasonable contract. It's not, as much as it might drive some fans insane. But I think Christian Benteke's.
I mean, he came in for Taxi Puntas and makes a smart run offensively. That's really been actually the one thing that's been missing from this team is somebody who's willing to make those kinds of runs in the box. I don't think that is Taxi Puntas' skill set. Is his ability to kind of make those runs into the box, and he did it very effectively off a great cross from Chris Durkin, and he buried it right into the back of the net. So we need that type of guy, and hopefully Benteke can come in and be that guy. So I agree with you. I would like to see this team. I think this team needs to go out. They need to buy down Paulson to TAM level, open up that designated player spot, and go get somebody big. There needs to be one more big time player that comes in here. Spend transfer money, do whatever you have to do to get that person in here. I'll be very curious to see. Hey, they reached out to Jesse Lingard. Maybe Jesse Lingard's season with Nottingham Forest starts going down a path, and they're like, you know what, we want to cut bait on this. So they look for transfer. Could happen. Could absolutely happen.
You never know. And folks, that's going to about do us. I want to make sure that we talk about our Patreon, patreon.com/RFK Refugees. We've had a bunch of new people join us in the last couple weeks. The benefit there is you get the show immediately as soon as it's done. So if you're not a person that watches Twitch live stream and you get the show on Monday night, that's a benefit for you. You also get Kindred Spirits a couple days early. We have exclusive player interviews that have a 7-day window of exclusivity. We're going to talk to Sean Howe this week, the director of scouting for DC United. So our Patreons get to submit questions for those interviews ahead of time, and we make sure to always include those. So if you can join us, we'd appreciate it. We think it's good value for money. Patreon.com/RFK Refugees. If you are joining us live right now on Twitch, we always encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed to anybody else, or if you are subscribed to somebody else, you can always join us right there on the bottom right of your screen. That makes it so that it's worthwhile us doing this live stream, because sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes there's technical difficulties. Brian is over there pushing buttons on his new fancy stream deck. Things happen. So we appreciate you joining us on Monday nights, taking time out of your busy lives to listen to us yammer about a last place team in MLS. And when we're about to do Kindred Spirits, a nearly last place team in NWSL. So we've got, we're covering the gamut of bad soccer in the United States. So we appreciate you joining us every week and downloading our podcast.
Yep, absolutely. We really appreciate you all. You guys make the show great. We love the new patrons we got, and we love the interaction we get from you guys during games and everything like that. It keeps us going in this
another bad season,
unbelievable, another bad season down the drain that is mercifully coming to an end. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week.
Vamos.